Hello, Westbox here. Got a little tutorial here on some source text. So I was working on a project here, and it was a bunch of kind of title plates, has a bunch of animation and stuff. But the big challenge is, well, there's two things. First, a lot of this text could not be nested due to some of the effects. And then the other challenge was, so essentially, I guess I should put it that. Some of the effects I was working on wouldn't work correctly on the nested elements, or pre-composed elements. So I had to leave everything in its root text form. Otherwise, I lost the elements to do some of the effects on it that I wanted. And so essentially I have the same text element, but they're not instances of each other. So that creates an issue because now I'm running around and I have a bunch of copies here that if I ever change this text, I have to change every single one. And then that was problem one. Problem two was this is going to be geared to be able to send out to some clients that have other people editing these in the future. And when that happens, you want to be able to have stuff they can edit easier. So this is the one that I've been working on putting together here. So it has some different settings and essentially it can duplicate. But how do you get the text to change? So if I go up here and say, okay, upper text, just because that's what this one is, I can go in here and say, manage live trials. And I go back to that original comp there, boom, it's going to update. And that updates all these text layers. So how do we do that? Well, let's take a look. We're going to do a new project. That one's fine where it is. Do new comp. And really you can do this at whatever resolution you want. I pretty much do most of my stuff now at 4K exclusively, even if I know the in delivery is going to be lower than that, just because I like having that full res and it's easier to just downscale. The only time I would say maybe not is if you're dealing with stuff where you're like time constrained. But anyway, we're going to throw in, I'll make this to 3 seconds so it's easy to watch. Boom, got a new comp. Go ahead and do a new text layer. All right, so got our text in here. So let's say we're going to animate it here. So we're going to take it, that's where it's going to be when it ends. P position, keyframe, and just move it off the frame. Boom. So now we have this animated. But let's say now it's easy to change this, right? So now you're like, oh, okay, I can change this. It's not a big deal. But what if you have more complicated layers? Like I said, it's duplicates and that kind of stuff. And we'll go into this here. So what you do is you go ahead and do a new comp. This one can be relatively any size, but we're going to say there. And we're going to name that. We just named it right there, but I name it source text. Make sure we open that one. Do a new text. Okay. There we go. And then what we're going to do is go into this text. Now, if you go into the drop down here, you'll see under text, there's an element called source text. Now, what you want to do is alt-click the little stopwatch there. And this brings up your pick whip. It's kind of a selector item thing here. It's both useful and it's a kind of an odd element of After Effects. So if you know it by hand, you can actually code this and duplicate it in later on in the future. But for the sake of making it easier for us who are not the greatest coders, what you have to do is, it's kind of a funny thing. Go to your source text, pop it into this side window. I know this is really weird. And then go boom. And essentially you create two windows. You still have just your main one up here, but now you have two active windows. You have this one here, and then if you switch it, it actually goes here. So we're going to be in this one. And then for our other text that we did here, this is our source text timeline here to the left. Go ahead and drop that down, do the text source, and then use that. Go back to the main comp source text. We're going to grab the little pick whip and click and drag over to source text. And you'll see this bring in some code. You click out of it, and now you'll see it actually updated it. So let me go back over here, close this window. So now our text in our main comp is always pulling from the source text. So what we can do here is, let's say we did a duplicate of this, and for some reason, we're just going to say we wanted the stroke to be red, and then we'll turn the fill off, and we'll make the font, let's say 95, okay? You know, that's terrible, but let's make the stroke bigger. Where's the poke? Let's make the stroke bigger, okay. So now I have this thing come with a stroke, but let's say that's part of the effect that you want this to come in, and once it hits there, it's going to go scale from 0, or let's just say from there to 100. And I'm not trying to be anything pretty here, just an example of what might happen. Boom. So we'll go here, just switch that so it doesn't come on until it's there. Okay, so now we have two different text layers. But now you could obviously do this by just duplicating what you did there. But let's say in the past you wanted to change it, you'd have to go and individually select each layer and change it. With this method, now you're able to go into your source text, click on this, for fun, and now go there, boom. Now we have both layers updated. And the nice thing as well is this does continue to work if you pre-compose. So if we go in here and did a pre-compose, it's still going to work. Boom, boom, still working because it's always connected back to that source text. Now, if you change that, it does start breaking stuff. Thank you for checking out this tutorial today. I hope you have a great one. I'll try to do something add on to this about duplicating the comps in more complicated settings, but just want to give you this rundown really fast because I think it's very helpful. Anyway, have a great day.